Hello everyone and welcome back to the Black Valley Railway. I am Connor, your host for today, and we're starting our new series. If you remember I believe it was my update video for my gaming channel. Don't know if I still want to do that stuff because I haven't touched it in over a month, maybe 2 months. I don't remember how long it's been, but whatever. I'll get to that stuff eventually. But I mentioned a new series called Meet the Fleet, and we're starting the first episode of it today. So, the first character I'm going to mention is, of course, Gavin. Gavin, he's been a character, he's a character who's been around with me since Black Valley version 1. He has always been a member of Black Valley from the earliest memories. I've actually, come to think of it, I think he might have been around a little longer, or way before Black Valley started. But that goes to show how long he's been with me. Gavin is definitely, he's definitely one of my favorites. So Gavin, in one of his earliest forms that I can remember, he was actually an American engine. Back when I was doing really shitty customs. God, how long? 5 years ago? Something like that. But he was a really shitty American engine who I made out of a Henry for some reason. But yeah, he was a really bad custom, but he was the first version. Second version of Gavin, he was actually a Black 5, like Henry, except he was gray. I believe that was in Black Valley version 2 or 3. No, it was in version 2. Because version 3, I had him in his final form, which is this. So, yeah. And then, ever since I changed him to what he is now, he's always been like that. Fourth version is my current lineup, so... Alright, so let's go ahead and get into some technical details, if you want to call it that. Gavin is a Great Western 4300 class, as evident by his detailing, his model, really. I absolutely adore the 4300. It is, from the moment I saw it, it's always been one of my favorites. I had a old OC. I might bring him back, depending on how I want my series to go. I'm still working at the kinks. Episode 1 is still being written, by the way, so don't give your hopes up. I had an old 4300 OC named Ares. And Ares was essentially a mentor character to an old OC of mine, who I'll get to in another video. But yeah, he was essentially a mentor to a character, and he was a black 4300. 4311, I believe, was his number. Alright, so yeah, let's go ahead and get into some of his details. He was made using a James, I believe it was a 2003 James? It might have been a 2003 James. Let me just check. No, it was a 2012 James. Alright, now I can see it. Yeah, it was it was an old 2012 or so on James with a 2012 tender. Just 2012 James. Or Learning Curve James. Fucking whatever. But I painted him green, or I cut off his face. I cut off his face. I cut off his dome. And I also, added, I believe they're called steam pipes, on the sides here of the smoke box. And, it just went about as basic painting. If you want to know the colors I use for my Great Western engines, the color is called Sap Green. It's by Folk Art. It's a really, really accurate, probably the most accurate, at least that I have, of a Great Western green, which I love. So, alright, yeah, going back to the details, all I did was paint him. Actually, I painted him in a hunter green, which I had way before the sap green. Had him in that, had all my Great Westerns in that I wanted in green. Painted them that color. Then I found sap green, tried it out, loved it. Now all my Great Western engines are getting that color that I want green, however. So yeah. Then I just went about painting the black details next, like the smoke box, the running board, the roof, back of the cab, and underneath the chassis. Then did all the stripes, detailing. I used Milliput actually to sculpt the dome. It's alright, I will admit, it's alright. See, I'm not the best when it comes to sculpting, so yeah. Painted the buffer beam, and I also gave him a brass cap on the funnel here. Next is his tender. You know, just gave him the standard detailing of that, of a 4300, and there's that. And for all of my models, I'm signing them. And what I mean by that is, here, let me just bring him closer. If you look on the bottom, it says the character's name, and depending on whether or not they're a tank engine or a tender engine or a diesel or whatever, I signed the my logo, or my signature really, on the bottom of the tender. If it was a tank engine, I do name and signature on the same chassis. But yeah, this is Gavin, and he's definitely one of my favorites. So the next two characters we'll do is Buck and Cole. Now, these two characters I actually didn't plan on having in my series at all, but I had a spare Duck and a spare, I had an Oliver custom in the works from a while ago that I turned into a different character, or no, I had that character into one character, turned it into Oliver, then turned it back into a black 4300. But we'll go ahead and go into Cole first. These two still need their faces, by the way. They have everything else, though. Cole was made using a Learning Curve CGI Oliver, which I just added. I believe this is clay and mix of Mod Podge and clay. Added that. This is way before I used Milliput. Then I added some kind of circle. I believe this was like a foam thing. Yeah, it's just a foam thing here. Then I also added, back when I was doing splashers and stuff, he was one of the first ones I did for splashers. So I gave him splashers and all that. For right now, I painted him black because, you know, why not? Basic custom, right? He'll get a new livery eventually. Gave him the buffer beams, brass cap on the funnel, and I painted his wheels and gave him what is it? Clear nail polish on the wheels to prevent them from cracking anytime soon, and gave him his name, my signature. Even though I just realized I gave Gavin a different signature. It says BVR. but it's BBS for Black Valley Studios. Now we're meeting Buck. Buck is a 5700, just like Duck. I just decided to have a 5700 because there was a lot of them made. They were the most produced tank engine, I believe. I think so. So it's, fuck it, why not? Yeah, he was made out of a duck. Originally, when I was making him, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have a 5700 in my series because why not? It doesn't hurt. And then I was looking at other Pannier tanks, like the 1366 class. 1366 class, which is just a tiny one of them. It's a tiny 060, or just a very skinny 060 Pannier with a outside valve gear. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, I just painted him up in a, I believe it was, the color's called alizarin crimson, I believe. I don't exactly remember because I painted him a while ago. And then I used, I believe it was King's Gold by Apple Barrel or some kind of ochre paint for the lining. I gave him a brass cap and gold dome, did all the details and stuff, as well as give him his name. His nickname is actually a play on Duck's, or Montague's name, if you will. Duck's nickname, or Montague, or Duck is Montague's nickname. And so it's sort of a play on that, where he has a nickname as he has a name as well as a nickname, which is named after a bird. Which I thought was funny because I had a Twitter post, essentially asking, what should I name the guy? Then I specifically said he is Duck's brother, which in turn people started saying, name him Goose, which was the top name. There was like 10 to 15 people who said Goose. And then around like 8 or 9 said Buck. So I was like, you know what? His name will be Buck, but his nickname will be Goose. Because it's just cute. I love it. But in reality, he doesn't like being called cute because he has a sort of complex. He's very stubborn. And he's essentially says that, I still got to write it out, but he is a very stubborn engine, and anytime you try to compliment him, he says, no, I'm not. So that's fun. Now we're going to go on to someone who, again, has been with me since pretty much day one, or very early renditions of Black Valley, and that is Simon. Simon you have seen quite a few times on my channel, in my 2 showcases for Casey and Crook. He was one of the engines I did a size comparison to for them, and his model is finally finished. I mean, besides the face, which, yeah. This guy is a hodgepodge. But I have to. This design is in mine. It's not really mine. I actually got a lot of inspiration from Dakota or Topaz Productions. I consider him a really good friend of mine. At least I hope he feels the same way. Dakota, please. But I was talking to him in a group chat that I'm in with him, essentially asking, what should I use for a 1361 class? And he said, I believe he said, Skarloey boiler, with either Skarloey smoke box or Sir Handel smoke box. That's what I use, is a Sir Handel smoke box. And I believe he used a Percy cab. But I actually used, the only model that's consistent here is the Thomas cab, running board, and chassis. I just added this Scarloey thing and boiler and the Sturhandle smoke box. I essentially cut off the dome, moved it up, and then added 2 pieces of styrene, actually. That's what this metal dome's supposed to be. It's kind of caving in, but I'll fix that eventually. That is just another piece of styrene, and I just painted him up, gave him his brass cap and all the details, and of course I did this. Simon is one of my favorite OCs, actually. He is originally he was supposed to be Percy's brother, which didn't make any sense. I was just a repainted Percy with Great Western Railway on him. But now he's his own thing, and I actually couldn't be happier that he's in my collection, or on my fleet. Alright, so I think that actually covers it. So we covered 4 OCs. We covered Simon, Cole, Buck, and Gavin. There's another Great Western OC of mine, but I'll have to make a separate video on him because there's a lot to talk about. So with that being said, I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.